We'll do this shortly. All right, 3, 2, 1.
I need your arms around me. I need to feel your touch. I need your understanding. I need your love.
We're back. I'm Marshmallow. I'm sitting here talking with Hitler. Say hi, Hitler.
How, Hitler?
And we're
Drunk on a weeknight.
Gentlemen, I'm sitting here drinking a tried and true staple of my diet these days, delicious Miller Lite poured into a glass because I like to spice up my drinking with a little bit of class. I don't drink straight from the can like a goddamn Parisian cat. Hitler, what are you drinking?
You're going to be impressed by this, Marshmallow. I am so prepared for tonight that I have a number of different drinks at my disposal. I've got what I like to call a lemon drop here, and I'm pretty sure I'm making it incorrectly. I've basically got lemon juice mixed with gin. We've gone through a couple of those at this point. Then I've got a Coca-Cola Zero. I'm trying to keep my weight down, obviously. Got that mixed with some whiskey, and as a backup on the side, as a chaser, if any of these get a little too strong, got some Corona Light. As you can tell tonight, watching my weight. So I got to keep that in check.
That's a goddamn cornucopia of booze there, my friend.
You know what? You got to keep it on hand because, as you know, drunk on a weeknight can get a little crazy.
We do like to get a little bit rowdy.
Well, let me tell you, Marshmallow.
It's off season!
No, the baseball season is in full swing, and as you can guess, it's time for us to talk about football because it's right around the corner.
Amen, brother.
Amen to that is right.
Docket tonight.
Well, you know what? I'm thinking tonight, fresh off of the recent draft, let's talk about some of these rookies, how they can impact their new team, and what we're going to. But you want to go? You want to go for that again, so our listeners can hear what that was?
I was just commenting that they are fresh fish.
Yes, they are.
First one to cry loses.
Yeah, I'm not sure it works that way anymore. I'm pretty sure we're in what century is this now? Like the 26th or something like that. We're far enough into whatever land this is to where we don't care about that anymore. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking these rookies, some of them are pretty good, and I'm thinking they're going to impact their teams pretty immediately. One of those players, though, not Carson Wentz. He has no chance this year. What do you say?
Carson Wentz is a piece of shit.
Oh, wow.
I think he is fantasy irrelevant. I think he's the backup in Philly. Who was the backup in Philly last year, Hitler?
Mark Sanchez, I believe.
Where did you draft him?
You know what?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Carson Wentz is nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's nothing.
Yeah, that's true, but let me ask you this. We are pretty much on the same page here about Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is also like 6'6", 250. I actually saw Carson Wentz play in the national championship game. Pretty sure it was like his 5th in a row or something stupid.
The national championship game.
Right. I have to say the because it's the only one that happened in my neck of the woods. So it's the national championship game for me. Carson Wentz, though, he's a big body. He can actually run better than most think. He'll have an impact later on, just not this year.
It's not going to be this year. I don't think he affects any other player's values on his team. I think everyone else you draft exactly what you're going to draft. I would not be surprised if Carson Wentz starts 4 games this year, but it's fantasy irrelevant.
Well, I don't know that we would go completely fantasy irrelevant. It's draft irrelevant for sure because no one's taking Carson Wentz on the draft unless you're in a 24-team dynasty league or something stupid, which that wouldn't even be any fun. So
The
moving
only
on.
person I think he could potentially influence is Jordan Matthews, but I think based off his play last year, I'm not sure if Jordan Matthews' stock is all that high to begin with. I don't know if the threat level of Carson Wentz can drop it any farther than it already is. So, yep, he's dead to me.
Like I said, moving on to my boy Ezekiel Elliott, showing off that beer gut at the draft.
Zeke.
What is that going to do to Run DMC and Alfred Morris? I was actually a little bit, truthfully, as a Cowboys fan, I was excited to see Alfred Morris come in because I thought the Run DMC and Alfred Morris combo could be a little bit more effective than Joseph Randle stealing cologne. But maybe that's just me. Now with Ezekiel Elliott, what are these three guys going to do? How is that going to impact the Cowboys?
Chugga, 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 choo, choo. All aboard the hype train. And I am not on it. Ezekiel Elliott will be the number one most overdrafted player in fantasy next year. Listeners, do not do it. Be one of the smart ones. Let all those other people take him way too high and take something a little bit safer. I'm not saying Zeke ain't going to be good. I just think he's going to go a freaking top 5 goddamn running back, and I think that's freaking ridiculous. When was the last time a rookie running back started off his career as a top 5 running back? It's crazy. Don't do it, even with this cush job. He's got too much competition behind him. It's going to be a triple-headed monster. I would much rather get value with an Alfred Morris or even what's his name?
Just call him Run DMC and moving on.
He is, no, that's not it. That's not
Jerry
it.
McFadden?
No, that's not it either. No, I believe it's...
Do you want me to start from the list of running backs so we can cover
Is it
those?
Jack Johnson? That's Jack Johnson. That's what it is. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, sure.
If Elliott is going to get completely overdrafted, what do you think?
I'm intrigued by Ezekiel Elliott, probably more so in a dynasty or keeper league. But I think you're right. I think they brought Alfred Morris in for a reason. I think they kept Jerry McFadden around for a reason. The only thing about Ezekiel Elliott that I feel like is intriguing to me most of all is that he's supposedly this great pass blocker. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he's a great rusher between the tackles, which, it's everything the Cowboys had in DeMarco Murray. Maybe even a better pass blocker from what I understand. He's projected to put up all these numbers, but he's going to lose carries to those guys. And to pair that with what's his face? The fourth guy there. Why am I blanking on this? Too many of these. Yes, Lance Dunbar. To pair that with Lance Dunbar, who's
he was left on the side of the road with a sack.
Yeah, no. You're exactly right. But the fact of the matter is that you've got 4 guys who each were supposed to play a different role. Well, 3 guys who were supposed to play a different role until Zeke comes along. He's supposed to be all of those 3 guys combined. So tell me why they brought him in unless they plan to give him the rock. I'm intrigued by Zeke, but I think you're right. He's not warranted a top 5 pick, but a lot of people are going to compare that with Todd Gurley of last year. And if you didn't have Todd Gurley last year and you were saying the same thing,
no, that's bullshit. Todd Gurley was hurt. There was plenty of more if factor in Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott's going to come in running hot, and that's why I think he's just going to get so overdrafted. Now, again, do not get me wrong. I still think he's your number 1 player in Dynasty, and I think he's he's definitely a running back 1. I'm just saying, don't take him in the top 5. There are safer alternatives out there. I don't think Zeke's going to be so freaking amazing. He outpaces everyone that you can't be bothered to just go ahead and play it a little bit safer. I just think he's going to get overdrafted, yet he's still going to be damn good.
Yes. No, you know what? Overall, in the grand scheme of things, I'm going to have to agree with you there. And
what abs? What amazing abs.
You know what? Compared to you, Marshmallow, it doesn't take much.
Well, we both like our 6-packs.
You know what? Keep drinking Miller Lite. You'll get there. You'll get there one day. So let's go down to Corey Coleman. He's going to be in Cleveland, and we're going to be talking about his ability to work with a questionable quarterback situation. What do you think about the QB situation in Cleveland and how it's going to impact that rookie there, Corey Coleman?
So the good thing for Corey Coleman is he is going to be coming in as the number one wide receiver. But the bad thing about Corey Coleman is that he's going to be coming in as the number one wide receiver for Cleveland. Yeah. I think this guy is going to get double teamed to death. I don't know if this guy is going to be such a big threat that I don't think he's going to have an amazing year. I think he's probably going to get drafted probably about right because I think everyone sees him also in Cleveland and doesn't think too much of him. But this dude is super fucking versatile. This guy is super fast, super strong, probably the best wide receiver of this rookie class with the ball in open space. That being said, he is a pipsqueak. He is under 6 feet tall. This guy's a little piece of shit. So hopefully he's going to have to catch that ball, and I don't know how he's going to jump over some of these guys and try to score them away from them. But if he can get the ball, watch out with him in open space.
Well, just remember this. I mean, there's guys out there that make their living this way. They're smaller guys. They're faster guys. Your guys like Deshaun Jacksons of the world.
Guys. This guy's black. This guy is supposed to be physical specimens.
Deshaun Jackson is not a white guy. But Corey Coleman at he's listed under 5'11", so he's actually smaller than I am. He's actually he might be a little quicker than I can move around these days. They've got him listed under a 4.40. They're going to use his speed to open up the defense there. But Marshall, what do you think that does to Gary Barnidge and what he can do in Cleveland?
Well, actually, I'm a little down on Gary Barnidge to begin with. I don't think he can repeat what he did last year, a bit of an anomaly. He did have some amazing catches last year, but even as amazing as he was, he still went 3-14, 4-12 or whatever the hell he did. I don't think much of Gary Barnidge, but I still think he's probably a starting tight end, but I also think he's a guy that's probably going to get overdrafted. But Corey Coleman did go to Baylor. RG3 went to Baylor. Probably go have some subways together. I think Corey Coleman could be an amazing wide receiver 3 on a team with upside. I think by the start of the season, he's one of those guys that might start to get a little bit overdrafted, but there is still some value there.
Yeah, you know what? I hate how much I'm agreeing with you, but I feel like you're spot on about Corey Coleman. Well, that's debatable. But let's go ahead and move on to that Will Fuller fella out of Notre Dame. He's going to Houston, and if you haven't noticed, Houston got really fast this year. I feel like a lot of the guys they brought in are going to be speed oriented. They brought in Brock Osweiler, which that is. So moving on to Lamar Miller, who, as you know, I'm a huge fan of. Lamar Miller. I could just stop. Can we talk about Lamar Miller and the fact that I love Lamar Miller? Okay, so let's go ahead.
You can go ahead and splooge on Lamar Miller.
Okay, done. That did not take long.
Oh boy.
So Will Fuller, though, he's coming into a situation where he's going to be sharing touches with DeAndre Hopkins, and obviously Lamar Miller, a great pass catcher out of the backfield. But the QB situation there in Houston, questionable, probably at best. But what do you think of Fuller and his potential there with Houston? Is it good for this year? Is he a good keeper? What do you think about dynasty prospects? What are your thoughts, Marshmallow?
I think Will Fuller is full of poop. I think
that's terrible.
I think he's going to distraction only. His only use is going to be streaming up the side, trying to open DeAndre Hopkins up underneath. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a target goddamn monster.
Wait, hang on a second. Did you just say he's going to open up DeAndre Hopkins underneath? Is that some sort of weird sexual innuendo?
That's Houston thinking. Houston thinks they're going to let DeAndre Hopkins going to spread up wide and take a bunch of balls up his cooch. But I don't think Will Fuller's going to have anything to do with that. I think Will Fuller's going to get a lot of bombs thrown to him by ice water, and I think they're going to sail out of bounds, and I think Will Fuller's going to suck. I think he's purely he's Cecil Shorts, and he's going to do nothing. I hate Will Fuller.
He's a career Cecil Shorts.
I think he's awful. I think he's terrible. I just don't see any upside with Will Fuller, especially on a team with DeAndre Hopkins. I don't think ice water can create two top 20 wide receivers in DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller. I'm out. DeAndre Hopkins is the only fantasy relevant player on that team, and I am counting Lamar Miller.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, so
shots fired.
That's going to be our disagreement there, because I feel like with Brock Osweiler behind center, I think they're going to have to try and run the ball, and that's going to bring some added value to Lamar Miller. But I think we're going to see a fairly balanced offense, just because I also feel like that defense is so good. They're going to get the ball. I think they're going to get turnovers. I think they're going to have the ball enough to create plays on the offensive side of the ball, and they're going to be able to do a lot with the offense as a whole. Still don't think that's a great team, but I think it could be a good team. And I like a couple of those guys. Will Fuller, though, when it comes down to it, he's probably the number 4 fantasy relevant guy on that team, and it's a complete flyer, probably a late round.
So I agree with you that I think that team is going to be balanced on the offensive side. However, by balanced you mean DeAndre Hopkins getting 17 targets a goddamn game. That's just not going to leave enough. That's just not going to leave enough on the plate for everyone else.
You're not wrong, but that's kind of why I developed Will Fuller as a complete flyer, late round guy. Fuller's going to have to
catch like 4 to 5 Hail Mary 80-yard touchdowns to be fantasy relevant, and if you want to roll the dice with something like that, go right ahead. I plan on my team being better than having to rely on that.
You're not wrong, but at the same time, let me ask you this. Let's say DeAndre Hopkins goes down. Are you the first guy to the waiver wire to put in a bid on Fuller?
No.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that answers it. If you're not excited when the number 1 goes down, if you're not excited about the number 2,
I just don't think he's the number 1. I don't think he can step up at all. I mean, yeah, his production will go up a little bit, but he's going to go up from the 50th wide receiver overall to the 40th wide receiver overall. I just don't even think he'd be. I just don't think he'll be barely flex territory. Is my point. With DeAndre Hopkins out and with him in, I don't think he's worthy. He's even rosterable.
Hey, that's fine. So let's touch on the number 5 the guy I have listed here. Josh Dotson out of TCU. He's going to the Redskins, who suck, by the way. Freaking hate the Redskins. But let's touch on him because he's got an interesting situation. I feel like both guys, both wide receivers in Washington, I don't like either one of those guys. Pierre Garçon or Deshaun Jackson. But then again, he's going to be competing for playing time right off the bat. Garçon always seems to be like half hurt, and Deshaun Jackson always seems to be dropping the ball right before the goal line. So, I mean, I guess there's always a shot for him to get some touches. I just don't know that it's going to be relevant for him to be draft-worthy until maybe 2017, 2018, until one of those guys like, I don't know, breaks a kneecap or loses an arm. I'm not sure what. What are your thoughts?
So I think Doxton is right there with Coleman as having plenty of ample opportunity to do good. And that is crazy because Doxton is probably going to go in the season as the number 3 wide receiver. But I think he's probably going to be number 2 on my list of rookie wide receivers. I think there's a lot of value with Doxton. I think he can, like you said, immediately step up and get a lot of possessions and get on the field and get a lot of snaps. I do like him. I like his size. I like his strengths. I think I think Washington's offense is even going to be better this year than it was last year. Now that frickin' albatross Alfred Morris is off that goddamn team. and put onto your team, Hitler. But, yes, I think Doxson is going to be pretty damn good. I don't know where to rank him overall still, a little early for that overall kind of rankings, but based on just initial even ESPN rankings, I really like his value. I think there's definitely some equity there with upside.
My problem is not with his size. I mean, a 6'2" wide receiver, that's perfectly okay with me. I have no issue with that. He's coming from a great offense, and obviously they showed what he could do there at TCU. The issue for me, I don't feel like a 4.5 40 is something that's going to get you separation in the NFL. I feel like he's going to struggle with that on the outside. That's why they have Deshaun Jackson. His route running ability is not up to par with Pierre Garçon. I just don't know that he's going to get the touches immediately this season, and that's why you can be excited about him all you want. I just don't think he's going to see the touches year one. I think maybe he's a great late-year pickup for Super Leagues or Dynasty Leagues. I don't know that he's something that I invest in on draft day.
No, he's going to be nobody you're going to draft to be a starter. My point is he's got so much upside. I think he's an excellent wide receiver 3 or 4, even if you're lucky. Yes, I do think he's going to turn it on before the end of the season. I think you do want to try a trade for him by week 6 and try to get some and value that way if possible, because that is somebody you're going to have to stash away as a dirty little secret during the season until he turns it on, probably near the end of the season.
Dirty little secrets, huh? How many of those do you have? What are your dirty secrets, Marcelo?
There's plenty of dirty about me, but no one's ever called me little.
Well, so let's go on from that TCU wideout to another wideout who made a lot of highlights over the last season. Laquan Treadwell. I believe that's French. I'm really not sure though. Laquan.
Oui.
You know what? I think Laquan is actually, that might be, Laquan. Is that like a side of fries with cheese on it at Popeyes? Is that what a Laquan is?
No, I'm pretty sure his crack whore mom was in the hospital, probably high up on drugs, which she came into the hospital with, not just the drugs the nurses gave her, and Laquan was just the first thing her crack little brain was able to come up with.
I mean, odds are that's right. I mean, all that welfare money coming in, you know, it does bad things for people, and that's why everyone should just be out on their own. But, I mean, hey.
Make America great again.
I mean, are we right or are we right? We are. We know we are. But Laquan Treadwell, we all know he's out of Ole Miss. He's going up to the Vikings, way up north. Is their stadium done yet, or are they still going to play outside? I'm very confused about that.
Excellent question. I think it's going to be ready, but you know, the skilled laborers in Minnesota, I'm not so sure how fast they are about getting things done. If it's not ready, then I think there got to be pink slips in the mail because they should be fired.
Why was there a question? Did someone put a question mark on your teleprompter?
Question mark?
You think it's going to be ready?
I think it's going to be ready.
You're Ron Burgundy? Okay, so Laquan Treadwell, we've seen all his plays from the top 10 plays each and every week. It seemed like last year at Ole Miss. Dude's got some great skills. He's got that skill set that you want in an NFL wide receiver. The only problem is I'm not convinced on the QB situation there. It just I know he fills an immediate need, but is that something that I want to invest in on draft day? Marshmallow, your thoughts about that?
I think I'm going to buy into the narrative like you are, my friend. I think Laquan came in as possibly one of the number one wide receivers, but I don't like his situation, like you said. I think Minnesota's going to kind of waste him there. If you had swapped him with Doxson, I would have absolutely loved him on Washington. But instead, he's sitting in all poor little Minnesota. I think his situation is probably going to get overblown a little bit, and therefore value. But I agree. I think that guy is definitely somebody I'm not taking this year. I doubt he turns it on at all this year like I expect Doxson to. However, I do expect good things from him down the line.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I think maybe I feel like Minnesota is one or two pieces away, and not even two pieces away, probably one piece away, and I'm not even sure what that piece is, whether or not it's a better offensive lineman, or if it's a better QB.
Yeah.
It's really strange to me. You know what? I still haven't figured them out. Obviously the Adrian Peterson situation is all settled, but I feel like every year they're just right on the fringe of being a true contender. They just haven't figured it out yet. So I mean, we'll see if that defense can step up and get that offense plenty of opportunities, and then maybe we'll see some opportunities from him. But I think his draft status just depends on too many different variables that it's not worth it for me to take him anything other than a flyer. I feel like we're seeing a lot of that out of these rookies, and maybe that's not too uncommon, but a lot of times we see those rookies drafted pretty high.
So I don't think Laquan Treadwell will be all that amazing this year. However, I'm not convinced America thinks that. Therefore, I actually think he's going to drop the value of Stephon Diggs. I think people are going to start thinking that more stuff goes to Treadwell, and Treadwell might be the number one. He's a new hotness. And therefore, I think Stephon Diggs is going to get maybe just a little bit underdrafted. This guy was pretty damn good last year. I would not be surprised if he's not going to be freaking number one or nothing. But again, like I said, I just think he's going to get a little bit of, I think there's going to be some value there in Stephon Diggs in those later rounds.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think necessarily you're wrong.
I put a fork in Charles Johnson because with Treadwell, that means Charles Johnson is fantasy done.
You know what? I think we've seen that. I think we had an idea of that coming into the season, and I think this draft pick all but that spells it out for us. You're not wrong about that call, but I think we all know how to approach Laquan Treadwell. But I think you're exactly right. Keep Diggs in the back of your mind going into draft day, because once you see one of those two guys picked up, I think those guys should be drafted right about the same spot.
Yeah, and if you're going to take one, the answer is Diggs.
I'm not going to call you out for being wrong on that one. You know what? The last guy on my list from that first round of draft picks a couple weeks ago here in the NFL draft is going to be Paxton Lynch. The Broncos just won the Super Bowl, and then the very next year they're changing starting QBs. Tell me about what you think about Paxton Lynch, what he's going to go do for this offense, and how he's going to help those wide receivers, if at all, because while you're doing that, I'm going to take a leak. So go for it, Marshmallow.
Well, I think Paxton is going to be pretty damn good for the Broncos. I think he's going to be able to generate and engineer some armored exoskeleton suits for the rest of the team. He's got a lot of money already. Add in his new NFL rookie contract on top of all the millions he's already got. I mean, he's an engineering genius. I think with his friends in the Avengers, however, I believe that their relationship is a little bit more strained lately. I'm not sure exactly how often he'd be able to call upon them, maybe in fourth quarters and whatnot. But I do think also his situation with Pepper, a little odd. But he does have his girl Friday in a suit. It'll be really interesting to see if the NFL is going to allow him to create his own custom uniform. But I really like Paxton Lynch's opportunity here in the NFL. Like I said, he's just a genius.
So you made some references to a movie, I believe, but most of our listeners are probably not third grade comic book nerds. So
is that not Tony Stark? Did they not draft Tony? Is Paxton Lynch not a pseudonym for Tony Stark? Because the guy looks exactly like Tony Stark.
I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't know how a a rookie NFL player looks like a 45-year-old actor. But hey, maybe that's
weird
me.
Too. I thought it was where they drafted him, but God damn it, that's got to be him.
So is Robert Downey Jr. Is he 6'6", 250? Because I want to say Paxton Lynch is 6'6", 250.
You're right. I'm sorry. It's Robert Downey Jr. That's the third running back on the Dallas Cowboys. I always get those names mixed up. I apologize.
You know what? He might as well be. You know, who might as well also be the third running back on the Dallas Cowboys? Hitler. Because I could freaking run through some of those holes. So, you know what, Jerry, when you want to call me up, I'm just down the road from your new practice facility, so bring me in for a workout. I'll lose a couple pounds. Maybe I'll even pour out this beer that I've got right here. You know what? I think I can get my 40 ton down. So call me, Jerry.
I think the only thing Paxton Lynch affects, because no one is goddamn drafting Paxton Lynch to be a starter in their fantasy football team, but the real value is how is he going to affect Demaryius Thomas? Demaryius Thomas
Correct.
is still going to get drafted as a number one wide receiver. He was able to do it with the ghost of Peyton Manning last year. Everyone was pissed off at Demaryius last year with so many bad games, and yet he still ended pretty decently all in all. So it's very curious where he's going to go next year, especially with Paxton Lynch throwing the ball to him. And the franchise, with the butt fumble in the backup, there's not going to be a whole lot of hope there. So I do not like Paxton Lynch at all. I don't even have him as a top 30 quarterback in the league. But I do think Demaryius is a little bit quarterback proof. The guy was able to be pretty decent with a guy named Tebow throwing the ball to him, so I would not be surprised if Demaryius still holds up. However, Demaryius is a little bit older, a little bit wiser. I think Demaryius will probably still get overdrafted on name basis only. I think there is a lot of wide receivers I will still take over Demaryius.
Yeah, you know what? I hate how much we've agreed tonight because I hate your body, your soul, your face. I mean, just everything about you. I despise. But you know what?
How can a man be this pretty and this smart at the same time? It should not be legal.
You're talking about me, or I guess I'm confused. But so Paxton Lynch, I think he impacts. What's his face? Demaryius. That's the guy's name. Demaryius. See, that's way too many syllables for a guy like Hitler to remember. But Paxton Lynch, he actually probably brings in a negative impact. But Demaryius somewhat quarterback proof, like you mentioned. But I think overall,
a little older.
He is getting a little bit older. I think he will be overdrafted, and therefore I have to agree with you. I think there's just too many wide receivers that I feel more strongly about performing well in the next season to take Demaryius too high up. Now, if he falls to me, I feel like if Demaryius falls late second, early third, I feel like I would be willing to snatch him up there. I think early second, late first.
Is he still a number one wide receiver for you?
You know what? Depends on the size of your league. If you're in a 12-team league, you can make the argument for him being the number one. But I kind of don't like it.
Are you taking Demaryius Thomas or Amari Cooper?
Ooh. I like this because you know what? This is our first football podcast of the season. And if I'm not mistaken, this will be the first one that we let ride, if you disagree with me.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, this is close for me. I would actually have a follow-up for you. You know what? Give me Amari Cooper. I like the QB situation a little bit more.
So that sounds to me then you do not think Demaryius is a number one because Amari right now on ESPN is ranked. Let's start.
Come up with your own analysis, Marshmallow.
I'm just saying that
ESPN as a
crutch. You without having to go through the numbers, you have 12 wide receivers you like better than Demaryius.
Without going through the thick of things. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like Demaryius is
I do not disagree. Boy, that one's tough for me. You're going Cooper. You know what? To goddamn hell with it, and to goddamn hell with you, Hitler. Give me Demarius Thomas. Demarius Targaryen.
All right, and you know what? Give me Amari Cooper, and let it ride, please.
Oh, let it ride, please.
All right, so we have our first Let It Ride of this season. How exciting. Can't wait to take your money on that one. So, Marshmallow, last thing. We've come through the list of names that I had. I really wanted to talk about. Are there any other guys that were taken in the first round you feel like would have an impact, or maybe some honorable mentions today that we might should touch on several months before the season actually starts?
Well, I'm not sure if you saw the headlines. I'm very curious if Goodell is going to allow the Miami Dolphins to do some commemorative helmets, and instead of rocking just the plain old helmet with the old boring face guard, we've seen it 1,000 times, and instead start rocking the tonsil gas masks out on the field. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a good idea? I think the kids will like it. I mean, that's just good branding.
Yeah, you know what? I think that really touches on both the positives and negatives of certain lifestyles, I guess we could say, in this world. You know what? It's proven that you can still be drafted as a first-round draft pick in the NFL with certain accusations going against you. So, I mean, that just proves real grit and determination, if you ask me.
Hitler, when you wrote Mein Kampf, did you ever insinuate that maybe you were hacked and it wasn't you, and that you're just trying, you're just a human being and trying to take it one day at a time?
You know what? I didn't write it. No, I didn't write it. I left my diary unlocked at the time, and someone actually wrote it on my behalf. Completely not even my personality. I would never say such things, except for behind closed doors, obviously. So, those things that came out, those were supposed to be completely private. I'm not sure why someone would write that down and then out me. But sometimes things happen.
I knew it.
Marshmallow,
I knew it.
I got one last question for you. We've talked about a handful of rookies, how they're going to impact their teams this year. We've talked about Carson Wentz, Ezekiel Elliott, Corey Coleman, Will Fuller, Josh Dotson, Laquan Treadwell, Paxton Lynch, and we've even touched on Laramie Tunsil a little bit. Your vote for who has the biggest impact on their team this season in 2016? Who's your vote?
I think you have to go Coleman, just because he's going to be the number one. He's going to get the snaps. He's going to be out there and do his shit, I think. But with equity and where they're going to go in drafts and stuff like that, I would not be surprised if by the end of the season the player you really wanted was doxed.
So Corey Coleman is your vote?
And I'm sorry, and I totally just skipped over Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott is by far the best.
Okay. Well, all right. So Ezekiel Elliott, that's your vote for who has the biggest impact this year?
He's my number one dynasty player.
Oh, man. So he's your vote. I'm so sorry. Do I need to remind that vote counts for 3/5 of a vote. Therefore, my vote wins. Because I'm going to take Paxton Lynch as the biggest impact for fantasy this year. Obviously, with the 3/5 compromise, you're going to lose that one. So Paxton Lynch, everybody,
you're
let it
tough
ride.
But fair. You're tough but fair.
I mean, hey, we got to compromise somehow.
It's God's will. It's God's will.
You know what, folks? We're going to be back very soon with some other rankings, and maybe I don't know, maybe we'll go through the NFC East again, everyone's favorite podcast. So stay tuned. Marshmallow, I think you'd like to say something to our listeners to sign us off.
From everyone here in the Drunk on a Weeknight studios, go fuck yourself!